so we took this new kind of system. We had it built in this really, well, I'm biased, but in this really cool modular way. And so we took it to the first couple expos, and people kept saying like, "Hey, can I mix and match components and parts?" We're like, "Yeah, it's kind of what we designed it for." I was trying to figure out how to get a kayak on the truck, and the roof was like, way too high up there, and the bed wasn't quite the right size. So I started trying to find a bed rack that was like kind of the Goldilocks. Going out and actually talking to people face to face gave us like two really big advantages. Super cool 24-hour rallies. It's the one they just ran, they call it Mothman's Revenge, and it literally starts or ends at a statue of like Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Hey, this is Ben from TRUKD. You're watching the Trailhead Network.
Wave it up, let it roar, feel the ground shake. Pedal down, dust flying, no time to waste. The trailhead's calling, engine power on a roll. This is where trails start and stories unfold. On the starlit skies, where the wild things roam. Every trail a journey, every Jeep a home. Beneath the trailhead, where the wild ones run, the dust kicks high and the day's not done. With the road wide open and the dirt in our soul, this is where trails start and our stories unfold.
Welcome back to the Trailhead. We're back with another Waypoints episode, and this one's for the gearheads and the dreamers who turn garage projects into brands. Today we're joined by Ben Azam. Is that right?
Yep, you got it. Perfect.
Yay! See, that's why you ask. He is the founder of TRUKD, TRUKD. It's a Pittsburgh-based company building bed racks and modular systems for off-road and overland rigs. Ben's been a designer turned builder, obsessed with the outdoors, fabrication, and creating the kind of gear that actually evolves with your adventures. We're going to talk about product innovation, small business hustle, what it means to be made in the USA, and why your rig deserves better than cheaply made cookie cutter parts from Amazon. Welcome to the show, Ben. It's nice to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, man. Nathan, how do I say this? Nathan is our most prolific voicemailer. He's been with the show since the get, and he's awesome. I love to have him on here, and he's the one that kind of, put us in touch and wanted to talk about some of the stuff that you've got going on out there. I assume that you've got some gear on his truck.
Yeah. So Nathan and I's relationship was actually pretty fun too. So he was when I first started the business, I had literally the first prototype. I wanted to make sure it fit on a Gladiator. So I posted in one of the local overland groups, and I said, "Hey, I need somebody with a Gladiator to do a test fit." So after he helped me out, we took a couple pictures of it. He actually got one of the first units on his truck. He ran it for probably the better part of two years, and then about this time last year, we upgraded him to a newer version, and so he's been running trucks since the beginning.
Awesome. You know what? There are a few people that I can point to in the community where, like, if you hitch your wagon to that person, they will give you their all. They will promote the hell out of you. And Nathan's one of those folks, man. When he gets behind something he believes in, he tells everybody about it. So good. You got a good one. You got a good one on that Facebook post.
Yeah, we're lucky to be connected, and he's been a friend. So he was just over here getting ready for the Trail Hero, and he was messaging me. I think he was texting me, and I forget if it was text or on Facebook, but he was looking for a rooftop tent to take out for the Trail Hero thing. And he was asking me, which one should I buy? And I said, I was like, "Hey dude, I got an extra one in the garage, just borrow it." Because he wasn't sure if he wanted to buy one. And I was like, "Just borrow mine. If you like it, then you know what to get. If you don't like it, then no harm,
no harm, no foul." Exactly. Yep. Oh, I ended up renting a trailer for this adventure because I'm like, as much as I'd like to buy one right now, I can't afford 20, 25K out the door. So, we're still in that place where overland trailers are ridiculously expensive. So some of the ones I found are better at the prices that I'm seeing, but it's still a lot of money for something, that's 1,300 pounds that my Jeep can tow.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some of them, I mean, some of them get pretty fancy, but oof, yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah, the price goes up real fast. I had a guy from one of the Australian companies that I'm sure someone will tell me who they are in the comments. I was at an Overland Expo, and the guy's just like, "Yeah, I'm cutting deals here at the end of the expo." It was just like Sunday afternoon. People are trying to get rid of all their extra coolers and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, it's only 65,000." I'm just like, "Are you? No, absolutely not. Like, I'm not casually signing 65K off on a Sunday afternoon on a,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
There's.
all
Well, I
right.
will say I've seen some pretty wild deals. I don't know much about the trailers, but I have seen some pretty wild deals at those expos on tents and awnings, especially if you go to the one over in Virginia at the tail end of the
Yeah.
year. Everybody's getting rid of
Yep.
their demos, so that's
Yep. Exactly.
it's a good show.
Yeah. Here's a pro tip if you're listening to the show right now. Go to any expo, especially the Overland expos. Go to those shows on Sunday. I mean, it's the same price as every other day, and it's a shorter day, yes, but there's less people, which is awesome for a lot of folks. But more importantly, if you hang out until closing time, as soon as you start to see those tents start to go up, just start walking around and be like, "Hey guys, doing anything? So you don't want to take this home with you?" And I mean, I got a vacuum, or what is it, a rotomolded cooler for like half off what they were selling. I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
just so just hang around towards the end of it. That's a tip from Ben and JD today.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Well, and I've
Well,
been there, done that in the past. We've
oh yeah,
when it
honestly, it's the best to get rid of stuff
Yeah, because at the end of a
or to
show,
get stuff.
depending on the time, yeah, well, both to be honest. But yeah, from a vendor perspective, sometimes you're at the end of the show and you don't want to pay to tote a trailer all the way back to wherever you came from, and sometimes you're like, "Hey, I got two things left, and you can't fit it in the rig, so you got to get rid of it
Yeah.
when you can."
Yeah, just look. I'm not saying be predatory, folks, but I
No,
am saying that if you're going to be around, then that's the best time to be around if you're just looking for a deal. And everybody helps everybody out at the end of those things. So, because honestly, and that's how I found out about it, Ben. Like you go to those things as a vendor or helping with a vendor situation, and you just end up there, and then just like, oh yeah, look at this, I can do this. Just I hang out a little bit longer.
Mm.
So, and usually, and the other thing, this is the one that I love, by the way, the food trucks that are left over, if they have any food left, they're usually just giving it away after closing. So take that's a grain of salt, but take that for what it is. All right, let's get to you.
sure.
Well, so Ben, let's start off with the basics so we know who the hell we're talking to. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from and where you are now. I think is the same place, but tell me a little bit about yourself, how you ended up off-roading.
Yeah, so well, I guess where I'm from is I actually grew up in Alabama, so I'm a Bama native, but I moved up here to Pittsburgh probably, geez, 10 years ago or so.
Okay.
So I've been a transplant Southerner turned Northerner.
Oof,
So
that's a different climate. That's a big climate change for you.
yeah, yeah, it's I'll say I'm still I don't know if I'll ever get used to winter, but I have taken up snowboarding, so that's made it a little bit more manageable. So
See good and bad. I
but yeah,
like, yes.
so I mean, and that's probably a good segue. I've always been into outdoor stuff. I've always been into hiking trails and um, you know, going on adventures one way or the other. Mountain biking, I did a lot of that when I was younger, and did a decent amount of like camping and kayaking. And so, I went to school. I'm an Auburn grad. I went to school at Auburn. Kind of background in industrial design and I call it like quasi engineering. And so we through that, I design products. That's been my whole career. I've designed all kinds of different things from, backpacks to robots to health tech stuff to,
That's cool.
you name it at some point. I probably designed a lot of different things. I did for a while there. I worked for Rigid Tools, designed a ton of plumbing tools. So,
Oh, okay.
so
So
I
kind of
kind
like
of,
all over the place from medical to like home improvement stuff.
yeah, yeah, all over the place. Even some like smart gadgets, thermostats, that sort of thing.
Oh, so you're
you
the
know,
person to blame. Okay, I
yeah,
got you.
well, depends. But,
Never
um,
follows my instructions. Go ahead.
yeah, so, well, that's Alexa. She never listens anyways. But,
Ah, there it is.
um, but yeah, so my background is design engineering and kind of being creative and creating things. Um, I'd worked for other big companies for a while, like I said, like Rigid, and then I kind of got into a position where I partnered with another guy. And we ran a design consulting firm for about. I think I was running it for about 5 years. And the consulting firm, it was just me and him when we started, and we grew it up to be a big company, but a bigger local company. And through the whole process, I'd kind of I'd purchased a truck. To the original plan was that we kept renting like Home Depot trucks and U-Hauls and stuff to move prototypes and parts and pieces all over the city. And I was just getting tired of wasting a day every time we had to rent one of those other trucks. So I bought a Tacoma,
Yeah, to go.
and
Okay.
I figured, oh, a Tacoma's gonna be great. I can use it for work all week. On the weekends we can take it camping. And before that, I actually had a little Mazda. It's just like a little Mazda 3, we had a roof rack on it, and that's kind of how we took our kayaks and everything wherever we wanted to go. And so I figured when I bought the truck, I was like, it's a truck. It'll be easier to put kayaks in the truck than it is on the Mazda, which I found out very quickly
Not true. Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't true. No, because the bed's 5 feet long and the kayaks are 10 feet long.
See the beds that we grew up with our parents. Like my dad had a Ford F-150 with an 8-foot bed. Like they don't do that anymore, guys. They
No,
just don't. Like
yeah,
the
you can't fit.
Gladiator bed is the standard. Yeah.
Even the old Ranger beds were like at least 6 foot beds, weren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
They're still hardcore today. That's why they're still sought after. And I think Ford wants to bring the Ranger back, but I think they're gonna bring it back with a short bed and everybody's gonna be pissed off about it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. No. So anyway, I was trying to figure out how to get a kayak on the truck, and the roof was like way too high up there, and the bed wasn't quite the right size. So I started trying to find a bed rack that was like kind of the Goldilocks. It was not too tall, not too short, and then the key to it was like I wanted to keep my at the time I wanted to keep my OEM the tonneau cover that came with the truck.
Oh, okay.
And when we started the business, I started trucked in the fall of like 2021.
Okay.
So we were trying to kind of figure it all out. And when I looked at the market, there was, I won't name names, but there's one company or two companies that made these um, real low profile racks that did work with tonneau covers, but they
Okay.
weren't really tall enough that your kayak could get over the roof. It was like too short, or there was these bigger racks, full cab height racks that there's some overland style racks out there that were just kind of they would have worked for kayaks, but none of them really worked with tonneau covers. They're all kind
Okay.
of open bed type rack designs. So I kind of saw this opportunity to try to figure out something like mid height, works with tonneau covers, and that's kind of where our first product came from. That we were saying earlier that we tested on Nate's Gladiator, our 12.5 inch rack. That's
Was
still the
that
one
really
he's
your
running.
first product?
Yeah, 12.5 inch rack was
That's
the first one.
that's pretty awesome though. That's just really cool though. That was how long ago was that?
So
You
that
said
was
2021.
October 2021 was when we had the first prototypes done, like just barely in the nick of time to take them to Overland Expo East.
Okay. That's usually how these things go.
Yeah, it was just enough. So we took them to the expo down in Virginia. The plan was to just see what people thought about it, see if there had been some people locally that had seen it, and it sounded like there was some interest. So we figured, let's see if the broader market had a similar interest. I am not going to say we got like an amazing response at the expo, but we got a good enough response that we kind of figured, well, we got enough pre-orders that we had to make them.
You hit your threshold for that. I get it. Okay.
So yeah, so we kind of, I think after the show, if I remember right, I was coming home, and then it was, we had a trip planned, just through Central PA. There's like this 200-mile loop in Central PA that you can kind of go on and do an overland adventure. And I figured, me and my brother-in-law and one of my buddies, we all met up, and did as much as the loop as we could and we tested the product for that one. And that was, we definitely learned some improvements on that first trip. I remember
You always do.
where we found this water crossing, and I mean, it was like, it's November in Pennsylvania. There's a decent amount of water going across the creek, and I didn't see there's some decent sized rocks. So I go down into the creek, and I'm watching the rearview mirror to see what how the rack does. I hit a big bump, and I saw the whole rack and it's only a 12-inch rack, but I saw the whole rack do this little like shimmy. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, I think there's some upgrades we need to make before we launch this thing. So we went back
Yeah.
to the drawing board, added a couple stiffener parts, and took it out again a couple weeks later, and it was just absolutely rock solid. So that was our long story to tell you my background, but that's how that's what
No,
happened.
that's great. No, that's fantastic because here's the thing is you managed to kind of cover the piece there of kind of what inspired you to get this started in the first place. Like that's behind all of these when I talk to people who build this stuff and kind of made the transition from, just kind of making this a hobby to making it a business out of it, there's always those not same steps but very similar steps, right?
Mhm.
Like you got out there, you found something that you didn't like in the off-roading space, in the off-roading world, or that was a hole that you're just like, this is Tacomas are missing these kinds of racks that really work for what we need them to do. And then you just started building something off of that. I mean, it's the same. I've heard the story time and again. It's how I ended up working with Trails Off Road, because I went
Yeah.
off on a website that had really crappy trail information, and I came home that night really really pissed off. And I went around. I found the guy who was doing it right, and I'm like, that's what I want to be a part of. And that's what I love hearing about this stuff. And that's what when I was checking out your website, it was one of the things that I looked through. I was like, this is awesome because you are making products that are trying to fit and fill a need, right? Like you're talking
Mhm.
about the fact that you ran into a situation where it was either too big, too small, it wasn't quite the right size because nothing quite made for Tacomas, which always surprises me, especially in the overlanding space. Whenever I hear that anybody can't find something for a Tacoma, I'm just like, seriously? Like
Of
they're
all
so
truck.
popular. Yeah, of all trucks, they're so popular, especially for camping and for overlanding. I would expect there to be better products for that. So kudos to you for jumping on it, man. Like that's a big deal. Were you when you left or when you started the company, was this a clean break for you? Were you still doing a full-time day job?
Yeah, so the first year that we were running Trucked, I was still running the consulting firm, and then we were doing Trucked was kind of it was the after hours and nights and weekends and sometimes during the day. And over the course of that whole year, over the course of 2022, um, it just started taking more and more and more and more of my time, to the point where, I had a conversation with my business partner, and we kind of gone in together, and we figured, we'll both do Trucked, we'll both do the design firm. Um, and we kind of got to the end of the year, and I was like, we're both like half focused on two companies. Like that's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
it's not really like a good way for either of us to it's not good for either of the companies. Um, so we kind of made the decision, we're like, all right, you're going to take the consulting firm, and we're basically more or less, we traded our equities back. So we each had 100% of one company instead of half of two. So
Okay. I mean,
it's a
that's one
very,
way to do it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very friendly split. We're still buddies. We still grab lunch. We still talk business, together. And it was the best the situation could have been. So, obviously it's always a little tricky, but yeah, so we kind of split it there. And then in January of 2020, January or February of 2023, that's when I started doing Trucked full time. And so I think we did two or three of the expos in 2022, and then 2023 hit, and I think we did like 15.
Yeah, you kind of like you got to go where the people are, and they're especially when they got the dollars, they're at the expos. So at least to get noticed.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where this is the overland and off road is, and it's a big community, but it's also like it's a community where people really value putting their hands on products. And so, especially starting out the business, we really really felt like the best way to get, obviously, we could have run Facebook ads or Google ads or, whatever kind of ads you want to come up with. We could have run those. We probably would have figured it out eventually, but the
Yeah.
going out and actually talking to people face to face gave us like two really big advantages, I think. So one, we got a ton of feedback, like just absolute like fire. We were drinking from the fire hose. Everybody that came by, has an
All the
opinion.
good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so and it was also like we kept hearing even at the couple shows we went to in 2022, we kept hearing people come by and say, hey, I really wish the rack would do like this, or hey, I really wish the rack would do that. And so, I'm nerdy engineer type. I'm taking notes, all the stuff, and putting it in a notepad and trying to remember everything. And um, by the end of 2022, early 2023, we were I'd had a pretty kind of the version 2 of the rack had started to formulate pretty strongly in my mind. So that was kind of the other big part when we switched. I kind of did a mild relaunch into our version 2 systems in
Okay.
in early 2023. And so the big difference was we created the components to build our 24-inch rack. And the 24-inch rack came from all this feedback. We kept hearing it felt like every three people that walked by the booth, one of them would say, "Hey, does this work with a trifold? Can I open and close my trifold tonneau cover?" And we're like, "Well, no, because it's a 12-inch rack. You can't do it." But people kept asking. So we're like, "All right, well, let's build a rack that works like on a Tacoma, where you could actually open and close a trifold tonneau cover." So that's kind of where our 24-inch rack was designed. And
Okay.
then, we still kept the 12-inch rack around because it was a good seller for us, and it was kind of what we were known for at the time. We have a 6-inch rack too, but to be honest, we sell very few of those. So they're good racks, but we sell our most popular is the 12-inch and the 24.
Okay.
But what was interesting was, so we took this new kind of system. We had it built in this really well, I'm biased, but in this really cool modular way. And so we took it to the first couple expos, and people kept saying like, "Hey, can I mix and match components and parts?" We're like, "Yeah, it's kind of what we designed it for." And one of the guys that was working with me at the time, his name's Jim. He's got a Gladiator. I'm sure he'll probably listen to this at some point.
We're talking about you, Jim. Hope your ears are burning.
He kind of had this idea. He's like, "I want to make a asymmetrical rack out of the components that the TRUKD makes." And he was kind of helping out. Like he came to shows with us. He was kind of another ambassador at the time. And he's like, "I want to make an asymmetrical rack. I want to do a half of a tall rack and half of a short rack. So you could put a rooftop tent on the lower level and an awning up on the higher level. And then you could kind of run the best of both worlds." And so that rack was affectionately called the Gym Special for quite a while.
I mean, this is a slick looking rack here. I'm gonna do a quick share what you're talking about.
Yeah, so we obviously, well, we maybe we could have called it the Overland or the Gym Special, but we ended up calling it the Overlander rack because what Overlander? Every Overlander wants a tent and an awning, right? So
I mean,
now that's
it's the dream, right? Quote unquote. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, and so that's Jim's Jeep in the picture, the white Jeep there. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, so we started making that rack, and it sold pretty well. Um, so same sort of thing, we started listening. So I think at this point we had, after we added the Overlander rack, and then we added one other kind of special configuration, we were up to 6 different racks at that time. So we had the
Okay.
6-inch, the 12-inch, the 18-inch, the 24-inch, the Overlander, and then the other one we call a double decker. So the double decker is basically kind of uses some of the same design features that the Overlander does, but it allows you to do like 2 levels of storage, so you can and both levels are
Nice.
adjustable. Everything is height adjustable, so it's adjustable up and down every 2 inches.
I think that's the big difference for yours versus a lot of the systems I've seen so far is the ability to really customize that height, right? Like
Mhm.
if you start at 24 inches, but you can bring it down a couple inches if you need to get it in the garage or something like that. It's the customization's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's most customers don't like once they get it set up for their needs, they typically don't change it. But we have some
Yeah.
customers who but we wanted to make it we wanted to make people able to basically to reconfigure it at a moment's notice. So we do have some customers, and there's one in Florida specifically. I think every time he sends me a picture of his truck, the rack's configured differently. He's like, I'm
Ah,
doing it this week, and next week he's got a rooftop tent all the way up top. The next time he's got it some other direction.
nice.
And so that's kind of what we wanted to build. Was we wanted to build a system that was like, we didn't want to put limits on it. We wanted to make it. We wanted people to build. We wanted to build. We wanted to give people building blocks to build the rack that they wanted.
I Now I have to ask this question because I've asked this question in the last 10 interviews that I've done. How much Lego do you have at your house?
Not too much. I was
Okay.
always, at least when I was a kid, I was always more of the Connects guy.
Okay. All right. That's still within the same realm. I'll give you
Same
100%
idea.
credit for it. You're fine. Yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah, okay. Because everybody I talk to, especially like the guys at some of the other companies that do fabrication of any kind, all of them have some sort of connection to those kinds of things. Lego, that's really funny, and that's what I think of when I saw these systems. Like, yeah, you might just set it up and leave it that way because that's the best system that you can get to modulate. But that's the idea of being able to change that in a moment's notice is pretty awesome. How how difficult is it to make configuration changes to those things?
Um,
Assuming you don't have to pull the rooftop tent off and pull all the gear off. Like if you just want just the part about making the change to your rack.
it doesn't take too much time. It might take you 20, 30 minutes if you know what you're doing. Once you do it a couple times, it's not too
Okay.
bad. First time it might take you an hour just
Okay.
to figure it all out.
That's
But yeah,
fair.
it's
All
not
right.
too bad. It's not something you're gonna change like, it's not, you're not gonna go to the Home Depot parking lot and change it real fast. But it's something like, on a Saturday, if maybe you got done mowing the lawn and you got 30 minutes before you got something else to do.
I feel
You
like
could
you might have just challenged your buddy in Florida.
maybe, yeah, he's gonna call me tomorrow. Hey,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay. Very nice.
so so that's kind of where we were at for a while. Throughout 2023. So towards the end of 2023, we started getting into this. So we had done, let's see, our first production batch. We built down in Alabama, which was fine. The company that did it down there, they did a pretty good job. But the challenge, we ran into a couple like manufacturing challenges down there. So in
Hmm.
23, we brought all the production up to Pittsburgh, and we had some local companies do it here,
Okay.
which was, and everything's always been made in the USA. That's been like one of our core, like, I guess, tenets for the business. We never wanted to, we never, well, for a number of reasons, we never wanted to ship stuff overseas. We never,
Well, all things considered, in the current political climate, it seems to have been a good bet.
yeah, it's definitely kind of twofold. Part of it was, man, racks are heavy and they cost a fortune to ship. So
Yeah, no kidding, right?
part of it was that. The other part of it, like I said, was kind of, we really believed in making it here and trying to make as much locally as possible. But yeah, so when we brought everything back to Pittsburgh for like version 2, we changed. We'd had a couple people mention, we're in Pittsburgh. Rust is a thing here. Uh,
I'm from the Midwest, buddy. And yeah, you're good. You're amongst
So,
friends.
oh yeah, so we when we launched version 2, we upgraded our powder coat game like significantly. We upgraded it to we did an e-coat base, which is like, for maybe people who don't know, like an e-coat is like, it's like what the frame of your car. It's like a dip process, and
Mm.
it's this polymer that gets electrostatically like pulled out of a liquid in this like 100,000 volt tub like onto your part,
I
and
mean,
then it gets like
yeah,
baked.
and it gets in all the nooks and crannies, and it's way better than just even like any kind of paint.
Mhm. Yeah, so we did an e-coat base, and then we actually powder coated over top of the e-coat. So our
Nice.
goal with the version 2 racks was to make it like as absolutely rust proof as possible.
Okay.
So fast forward, after a year of some of the, our V2 products being out there, we still had like, I think we had like 2 customers who had like some rust issues. And that was still like, that was 2 for me, that was 2 too many. So then
I
in
like
in 20
perfectionists.
so in 20 yeah, so 2024 we made the um, decision to switch everything over to stainless. So we said, we're paying all this money for this fancy coating, and well, and it wasn't so much, it wasn't so much failures in the coating. It's more just like, these are off-road products. These are outdoor products. They're gonna get scratched. They're gonna get dented. They're gonna get beat. So we figured, like, no matter how good of a coating you put on it, there's still a potential for rust. So that's kind of what made us decide to to switch to 304 stainless, and the switch kind of happened mid last year. So I
Okay.
think we kind of did a rolling change, and so as we
Do
ran out
you
of
stick
parts.
mostly with do you stick mostly with stainless steel, or do you use any kind of aluminum, or is it just kind of are you strictly a stainless steel person at this point?
So we use both. So the main structural components are what's stainless, and then everything else is a high strength aluminum. The
Okay,
crossbars are
just save a
extruded
little weight.
aluminum. Yeah, to save weights. Most of like our 24-inch rack, as an example, is just under 100 pounds, so it's not too heavy, but it's still super strong. And that was
Okay.
our goal all along, was like, let's put the strength where we need it, and then where we don't need the strength, we'll use aluminum. And it's still not going to rust. It'll work for quite a long. It'll work forever, pretty
Yeah,
much.
aluminum has this place, especially in what we do. It's just I understand where you're putting the steel versus the aluminum. I just wanted to find out. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and the other kind of benefit we got switching over to stainless is the stainless is actually, we ran a lot of like FEA and did some other like bend tests and things. The stainless is actually stiffer than your hot roll normal steel. So obviously stiffness comes with pros and cons, but in this case, stiffness was a good thing. Um, so actually, when we changed the material, we didn't change the thickness of the material. It's the same gauge, but it turned into I love it when things like, when there's multiple ways that a product gets better from like a single change. So I'm always
Nice.
looking
Yeah.
for opportunities like that. Like, that was kind of one of the other big changes we made when we switched to the stainless steel racks. We made some changes in our hardware too. And that same thing was the hardware. We've been hearing from customers of our rack and from other racks that the most annoying thing was to have, bolts come loose you go down washboard for 100 miles and bolts start coming loose.
Yeah, especially overlanders, right? Like we end up on those roads a lot.
Yeah. So, well, that's a story. I'll tell you that story in a minute. But
Okay.
that was something that uh, when we made the switch, we switched everything to use carriage bolts. So we use a 5/16 carriage bolt that slides in the extrusion crossbars, and then we use a lock nut. And then after we switched to that hardware, like, stuff doesn't rattle loose anymore. It's
Nice. Yep.
it That was a big upgrade because it was easier to install, less error prone, and it was just a way better product. So that was another upgrade that we, listening to customers and doing our own testing. Those are the sort of things that we're always trying to improve on.
Again, that's a small change though, right? Like it's just changing the type of bolt that you're using because you're getting that feedback from customers that is, hey, it's still rattling a little bit. Well, how do we fix that piece of it? That's why I like businesses like this, because it's you get that feedback goes direct to the people who are making the product.
Yeah, and I joke with the guys sometimes now, and I'm like, you know, every time I do another batch of production, I'm like, what can I make better? You know, let's figure out, is there something that we can tweak? Is it like there a radius somewhere we can tweak? Is there a hole size we can make better? Like, we're always trying to find that next opportunity to make the product, just that next level a little bit better.
Do your employees feel the same way though, or are they like, oh god, here he goes again?
Depends on the day.
Not that they'll say to
Sometimes
your face. Okay, not that they'll
yeah,
say to your face.
they're like, Ben, it's fine. You don't
Fair
need to do
enough.
that.
All right. I mean, here's the thing though, you do need that feedback sometimes, because sometimes there are people like us who will just keep tweaking it until we've over tweaked it. So yeah, there needs to be a stop button.
Yeah. So our newest product, we just came out with our newest rack. We call it the A series. So we kind of renamed our original rack the T series because it's right angle and T and kind of square. And then we
Yeah.
came out with our newest rack called the A series, and the A series is angled because that was another piece of feedback we kept getting. People kept saying, I really wish the rack kind of matched the curves of this truck. And I'd go to an Overland Expo and I'd hear that comment like 50 times because it was, that's just, that's what people are
We
used to.
still like the aesthetics. Yeah, we spend a lot of money on these vehicles. We still kind of want to make them look good.
Exactly. So this year, as of February, we launched our A series rack. And so the test for the A series, we made
Hmm.
some, it's supposed to be a little bit cheaper of a rack. It's for the same full height rack, it's about $500, $400 to $500 less than our 24-inch T series. So we're kind of in that
Okay.
1500 each price point for the full height. And we
Still a
wanted to
really
make
good
sure
price. Yeah.
we wanted to make sure it wasn't we didn't want to make it a cheaper, but it's not cheaper, right? We wanted to make it a really high quality rack. So we used all the same engineering principles off the T series to kind of pull back into the A series. So single piece construction, three-dimensional bolts, everywhere we can, just stainless steel, obviously. We didn't stray from our kind of standard material list. And then same thing, the same like vibration proof lock nut hardware. So the test, so this is kind of going all the way back around to the washboard comment. But
Nope.
so the test for it was we're going out. We went. I was on the road for 23 days in March. So I drove from Pittsburgh down to Florida for the expo, for the Save Expo in Florida. Which, if anybody's available to go to that expo in early March, that's one of my favorite expos of the year. It's an absolute blast.
Really?
Ton of fun.
Okay.
It's maybe my favorite expo of the whole year.
That's really
There's
interesting.
others
Okay.
that are pretty close, but that one's really fun. So we went down there, and then I drove from Florida out to California for the Overland Expo like SoCal. I had a little bit of time, and I wanted to get some good testing on the A series rack. So I decided to do the Mojave Road on my way out there. Not the hardest trail on the planet,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
the washboard is aggressive. That's a
It's
very
no
aggressive
friend to
washboard.
kidneys. Yeah. Uh
No, no. I think my comment when I finished to my friends was I need a new spine. Uh,
huh.
yeah. So anyway, that
uh,
was my extreme vibration test. And to make it worse, most people do the Mojave Trail in like 2 to 3 days. It's 155, 160 miles, something like that.
yep.
Um,
I think that's about
most
right. Yeah.
most people, if you go watch, different YouTube channels, most people are doing it in 2 or 3 days. And that was my plan. I was planning to do it in 2 to 3 days. When I got there, that was earlier in the year when all those atmospheric rivers were coming into California, and like it was raining like crazy, and there was mudslides and,
Mm.
all that
Mm-hmm.
fun stuff. So I'm not gonna miss the opportunity to do the trail, but I don't want to be out there when it's raining like crazy. So I looked at the weather, and the first day I wasn't sure I was gonna make it, because the first day when we got out, I got
Oof.
out to the trail. It was raining pretty good. There's a picture on our Instagram of me like at the trailhead, and there's literally a huge storm and a rainbow behind me in the middle of the desert. So, and I looked at the weather, and I think I had like a 1.5 day window. I had like a 36-hour window to like get this trail like done. So I ended up wheeling it. I think I went that first day. I got to the trail kind of late in the day. I had a couple stops I had to make early in the day. So I got there. It's kind of towards like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So I ended up like wheeling it pretty, I think, until like 11 o'clock or midnight. I went probably the first third of the trail in the dark, which
Oh
actually
boy.
it was actually a ton of fun. I got to, you get to turn on the lights, and, I kind of had, I was living out my Baja dreams, I guess.
I get it. I get it. I'm not going to criticize you. I get it. Yep.
But yeah, so I ended up going out there. I ended up camping. There's a great camp spot right next to this. There's like a point where everybody stops. It's kind of disgusting in some ways, but there's like a tree that everybody chews bubblegum and sticks pennies on this tree like halfway through the trail. So anyways, it's called
I
the
feel
penny
like
tree.
okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so I ended up finding a camp spot like right close to there. And so that was my first night there. So I got up the next morning, and I was like, it's going to rain. That night was when it was supposed to start raining out in the desert. So I was like, I have to get off the trail, because especially towards the end, if you're going from the east side to the west side, when you get towards the west side, you end up crossing, there's this creek you end up crossing like a bajillion times. And you're kind of running down
Okay.
this water. You're kind of running down this like watershed, creek bed kind of area. So I was like, I gotta get to the end before it starts raining. And so I booked it all day. I think I stopped to take some pictures and videos, and I've still got to edit a YouTube video eventually to put up about that trip. But yeah, I made it. I got into the camp, popped the tent, and then like I had Starlink set up, and I started like doing a little bit of work in the tent that night, and like probably 20 minutes after I stopped, it just rained. Like so
Ah,
Yes,
of
I could
course.
not have timed it more perfectly. It was, a little bit of luck, I guess.
Yeah, that's like you don't want to end up in one of those areas where it just turns into that silty mud and as soon as it gets wet and you don't want to be driving at that moment. It's not good.
No, and that was like I said, that was my goal the whole time was to avoid that if possible.
That's a good goal, man. Yeah. Well, to that end, then, so do you see, you know, and this is kind of a question. This is a twofold question, right? Do you consider yourself kind of a weekend warrior, kind of a guy who's just going out on the weekends when you're over, or are you more the long term overlander kind of person who's doing like who wants to do the 4 or 5 day trips? I won't even say does do 4 or 5 day trips because now you own a company that is now 2 years of your primary business. So I assume you haven't been camping in at least 2 years.
Uh, so so I do most of my camping happens to and from the expos.
Okay.
So I actually make kind of a point of it to have a little bit of fun. Uh, Most expos, especially if I'm going to travel across the country, if I'm going to go out like in a couple weeks, we're going out to the expo in Flagstaff. And for those trips that take me 2 or 3 days to drive, I'm like, if I turn around and book it all the way back, gonna it just I'd be dead tired. So I usually try to take a
Yeah.
couple days, usually after it. That's another story. But from experience, we've decided no wheeling before expos, only wheeling after expos.
Oh, we'll come back to that one then. Okay, go ahead.
So so yeah, I usually take a couple days after the expo and I try to do something, I try to hit a couple trails in the area. So like I think this trip to Flagstaff, we're gonna go down. I'm meeting with there's another company that I'm buddies with, and we're gonna try to do a couple of trails just kind of in and around Sedona area. We'll take a couple days and we'll call it marketing, but it'll be for fun.
Yeah, that's okay. Marketing is marketing. Like, you guys, what you don't know as we've been talking is that occasionally I've been popping pictures and stuff that you guys have been taking from your marketing materials under our discussion today. So
Oh,
it's worth
perfect.
having that stuff, and it's great that. Here's the thing: one of the things that can happen when you start a company, a small company, right? Like you get really into the weeds with just the day to day designing and shipping and making sure all your stuff gets out there, going into expos and stuff. And the fact that you're making time to just stop and take a couple days to go off and trail and just make sure that the stuff you're working on is working for you. And in the same breath, it's also just to kind of reconnect to what it is that you want to do with it. Because if you lose that passion for it because you're just doing it all the time, then it's not fun for anybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's at least for me, I love it. Obviously, I love getting out and going on an adventure. I mean, whether it's this or something else. If I'm not going on some sort of adventure, I'm going to go a little crazy. Um,
Fair enough.
but the other part of it too is it gives me every time I go out and I do something like this, it gives me more ideas. It's given me like, hey, if I made this part either maybe if I made this different accessory, then maybe I could mount this other thing a different way, or hey, if I do something like this, every time I'm going out, I'm adding more ideas to the idea book. It's kind of that creative outlet. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I get that part 100%. Like I feel like any of us who end up in any of those off-road spaces, whether it's, like us doing the show or you doing the racks, right? Like you have to have a passion for it. Otherwise, what's the fun and nobody's going to show up for you if you don't show up for the sport.
oh, exactly, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
that's definitely that. It's fun. The
Okay.
more I used to say, like my passion was always, well, I don't know. I think my passion is anything with wheels, but um,
That's fair.
so
Yeah.
I love anything that I can go fast on and maybe get into some trouble or do something group like.
I might give you some crap about the Mazda, but outside of that, we're good. Yeah.
Well, so
But that's personal history.
what I didn't tell you was the Mazda was my beater car because I had a sports car that I took to the racetrack.
Lord. All right, there it is. So
So
is a Hemi swap in your future for the Tacoma then?
probably not a Hemi swap, but a
What all the
2J
cool
would be
Jeep
fun
kids are
enough.
doing. Okay. All right, there you go. Apparently that's just the big thing that everybody but me can afford to do right now.
Yeah, those Hemi swaps are killer.
Yeah, no kidding, right? You have a TJ too then?
No, I don't. But
Okay.
I've been around them a couple times, and they sound
Okay. Do they though? Like I know when I sold mine that it was knocking on heaven's door, and it had been for at least 80,000 miles. I sold when the guy I sold it to, I was just like, look, that piston's going to come through the roof at some point. I don't know how to tell you, but
Oh no, I'm
it's a
talking with
TJ. That's what they do. Okay, yeah. I'm talking about what would lead you to have to get the Hemi
okay.
swap.
I ran
Okay.
into the Cottywomple guy. Do you know the Cottywomple Overland guys?
Yeah. I sure do.
I ran into
Yep.
him at Save actually this year, and he was telling me all about his Hemi swap. Yeah, he cranked it. He was probably 5 or 6 booths away, and I heard him turn it on. It didn't sound bad.
Pope did it to his after he killed his Pope rolled over in a fire road, and killed his engine. I don't mind saying that because he's not here, so I can give him crap. But Pope rolled over in a fire road and didn't. And one of the things that it's people don't tell you is that if you roll, if you're as long as you're safe and you're of conscious mind, turn your car off, turn the Jeep off, turn the vehicle off,
sure.
so that you say he didn't know, and they flipped it over and he tried to restart it without pulling the plugs, and he just killed it. So, but he loves it, man. He took that thing out in the salt flats and had an absolute blast with it. He loves hauling with it. So yeah, that's the thing is I really would like to do that, but I still have a lifetime warranty on my Jeep, which all of our listeners are very aware of. So someday I'll get a 4-door. I'll put a V8 in it.
Oh yeah, if you got a good warranty and they're going to keep honoring it, then yeah, you don't want to mess with that. But maybe I was going to say the last generation Tacomas. I don't know about this newest one.
Wow, you're like the second or third person I've heard that from. Like, what is it about the new Tacomas you don't like?
Tacomas, Tundras, they all have that they're all on that new platform. It'll probably be as reliable as the the last generation after a couple years and they figure out the gremlins. There's been I think all of the third gen, maybe not all of them, but a huge number of the third gen Tundras are all getting engines replaced because they had what was it, like shavings or something in a cylinder head, or I forget exactly what it was, but
and now that you mention it, we have done a couple stories about the number of recalls that the new one has had. So yeah, and not like small recalls, right? Like it's not like just a faulty computer component or something. Like these are big engine related recalls.
Yeah, and the new Tacomas have been having some transmission problems. The engines haven't had any issues yet, I don't think. At least not that I've heard.
Okay. No, this is transmissions. I remember that story now. Yeah.
So yeah, they're like I said, it's Toyota. They'll figure it out over a couple years, and then they'll be bulletproof.
Yeah.
You just don't want like any new product or new vehicle. You don't want the first year model.
You really don't. And what I will say to that, like, is if you're in the market for a new truck and you want one, and you can close your ears right now if you don't want to hear this, Ben, but Gladiators you can get dirt cheap at the moment. At the time of this recording, which is the end of April in 2025, they're still dirt cheap. You can get a year-old, or if you get a 2-year-old, man, you can walk out of there with probably way less than it costs to make it. But yeah, if you want to wait for the third generation Tacomas to get better, then just buy yourself a Jeep Gladiator. It's got a few years on the market at this point. You can get your warranty out, and then you can sell it for the new Tacoma after they work the gremlins out. See, I'm helping everybody here.
Perfect. Yeah. No. I've been so my Tacomas. I've been putting about since we started the business. I've been putting between 30 and 45,000 miles a year on my Tacoma. So it's starting to show. It's starting to show some age. So I've been.
What's your total mileage now?
I'm just crossing. So let's see. Most of the miles came in the last 2 years. So it's just over 100,000. So it'll
Okay.
keep going. It'll keep going for a while, but it's like I said, it's been on a lot of trails. It's been used hard, and
Yeah.
I've been. Uh, if it was my personal truck, I'd just run it forever, But it's also got to be a show truck, and it's got to be a. So I've got to consider those things, which, for better or worse, I'll probably keep it throughout the rest of this year. I think my plan is to keep the Tacoma running through the rest of this year. But depending on how business goes this year, early next year, I may have a different truck in the booth.
I mean, yeah, yeah. Well, let's leave it at that. Like that's one of the things that when you're in
Yeah.
this industry in the way that we are, we were talking about a minute before we got on the air, right? Like you think you know what your plans are going to be, and then 3 weeks before an event, you're like, oh, my business has changed.
Yep.
So I 100% get it.
I think that my top, like, we'll see what the Tacomas look like next year. But, that the Ford Ranger Raptor's been teasing me, and I mean, honestly, the
You want a
Gladiators too.
Bronco? Everybody's getting Broncos. That's the cool kid truck.
But I can't put a
truck in
a
air
bed rack
quotes.
on a Bronco, though.
I think that's a lack of imagination, Ben.
Okay.
You have to give it a bed, then you can put a truck bed. And you could.
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is maybe I need to make roof racks for Broncos.
I mean, here's the thing: is one of the things that has bothered me, and I've been reached out to. When you reach a certain place on Instagram, brands reach out to you, right? They want to find out. Well, up until recently, that's a different discussion for off the air. But brands would reach out to you, right, and be like, "Well, we have, especially Chinese brands. Let's be honest about it. Those are the ones you hear from most often." And they would reach out to you and they'd be like, well, we have these products and this, that, and the other. And what I will tell you as a Jeep person who has a 2-door Jeep, and I think that the same applies for anybody who's got a 4-door, any opportunity for me not to drill into my Jeep is an awesome opportunity. Any opportunity for me to, without going around like one of those types of frames that go around the outside of the Jeep and stuff like that, I think where it just kind of attaches to the top. So what I would say is that, yeah, if it's a Bronco, if it's a 2-door Jeep, if it's a 4-door Jeep, like if your next stage is like roof racks, 100%. I want something that I can put on when I need it and take off when I don't. So that's my feedback for you today that you didn't ask for. Yeah. But because I'm the kind of mid-ground person, right? Like I do the occasional hardcore stuff where I go in a sand hollow and I do as much as my Jeep can handle. But for the most part, like I'm trying to go out on the weekends and have a good time. And then every once in a while, yeah, I get the opportunity like Trailer X where I'm going to be out in there for a whole week. Right. I want to be able to take that stuff on and off when I'm not using it. I don't want to worry about holes and stuff in my Jeep. So yeah, definitely roof racks, man. And I can tell you, Pope and Randy, who just bought 2 brand new Broncos and have swore uphill and downhill that they're not going to make any changes to it, will want something like that in the very near future because there's no room in that for them outside of the storage space in the back of it. So yeah, especially for roof, like if they want to put a rooftop tent on it.
Yeah, roof racks. That's a long discussion, but yeah, we've had our eyeballs on making a roof rack for a while.
Okay.
So
we can always have you back to talk about more about that stuff too. So if you get one in the pipeline, we can talk about it more. Or if you want more feedback, we can just have an episode where we talk about it and see what kind of feedback we get from it.
That'd be cool too. Yeah, we've got a design. I'll call it 85% done.
Okay.
And we're just kind of waiting for the right moment and the right kind of. It's got to be the right time in the business's world and life, and launching a product is. Launching especially a new, going from one bed rack to another bed rack isn't, it's another product inventory and everything else. It has a cost, but going from like bed racks to like roof racks is a big jump. So, we're trying to get, there's a couple more, a bunch more things we got to do in the business to grow to the point where we're really ready to tackle that.
It's good to know you've got it out there though. That's the nice part is, yeah.
I'm secretly hoping maybe this summer a couple prototypes might be out in the world, but
all right. Well, I'll throw my hat in the ring, but you might have better people that are closer to you that could potentially provide you better feedback. But I will throw my hat in that ring. Okay,
yeah,
that's good, man. And the only reason I ask those kinds of questions is because you guys do the Tacoma stuff, you do the Gladiator stuff, and everybody's got trucks, but you know, and I know that the four-wheel community isn't just the truck side of stuff, especially the
Yeah.
overlanders, right?
Oh yeah.
But there's those of us, you know, like Carrie from the Trail Traveler. He's got a four-door Jeep, and he has to have a trailer because the amount of stuff that he brings with him. And
Mhm.
so a roof rack, I have a feeling would be something that might benefit him if he's looking to lighten his load a little bit and maybe bring a smaller trailer. I know for me, it's something that's super important because I can only tow so much as a two-door, right? I got
Right.
to be able to bring as much on the Jeep itself. So awesome. All right. Well, let's see here. What else we got for you? What else? So you guys have done. You do all of these expos. What else do you guys doing community wise? Are you guys doing stuff locally there? Are you doing any kind of sponsored stuff? Or are you just kind of going from expo to expo, trying to show people what you got?
So we do a lot of, I mean, we do a lot of the expos. That takes up a huge amount of our time, but we try to do, well, I haven't been to one yet this year. We try to, actually, I'm wearing the t-shirt today. We try to do the 24 hours of Appalachia events. So it's this great
Okay.
group. It's a really cool group here. They're more in like West Virginia, but they do some different rides. I think their next one is, what's it called? Buckeye something. But it's kind of on the Ohio side of the, all the Appalachians, but they do these
Okay.
24-hour rallies, and we're not quite ready or big enough to start sponsoring it, but hopefully we get there one day. But we at least participate in it and try to help out where it's possible. But yeah, they're super cool 24-hour rallies. It's the one they just ran. They call it Mothman's Revenge, and it literally starts or ends at a statue of like Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
My
It
God.
goes 600. It's a 600-mile event, and you're supposed to try to complete it. And it's 75-80% off road. Most of it's kind of forest roads, but there's some technical sections too, some water crossings. Especially the one that Mothman's Revenge event they usually do in like late February. So you get up to the higher elevations around, well, I mean, higher elevations for this half of the country.
Yeah. Thank you for. I really appreciate you delineating that. Yeah. Yeah.
But you
Uh,
get up and there's like, you get some snow and ice and you got to deal with some of that. And you got to go through the water crossings and you get like, you got a lot of different, you're going through a lot of different types of terrain. But the challenge is just trying to get through the whole 600 miles in 24 hours. And, there's, I think, couple hundred trucks usually show up and do this thing. They're kind of partnered with I'm probably saying the wrong name here.
Garmin.
No, it's one of the Gambler. It's like there's a
Gambler
with, like
500.
with the Gambler 500. So they got some of those guys out there. Um there's usually some pretty these last couple there's been a couple like pretty pretty wild like free runner builds that have showed up. I don't know if they're coming from Baja or whatever, but they look like they're coming from
There's
there.
no maximum tire size on this. Yeah, I'm looking at the requirements. This is awesome.
It is
Wow.
a blast. If and they do a couple, like I said, they've been the whole purpose of um the 24 the whole purpose of the event is to try to bring more tourism and more awareness to these like a lot of these communities in West Virginia that the coal mines are gone, and they're trying to build up motorsports tourism in the kind of West Virginia, Kentucky, like that southeastern Ohio region.
Yeah.
So
You guys
that's
have it too. I think that's the thing is people don't recognize like it's out there. It hasn't been advertised very well over time. Like, yeah, we get all the attention out here out west, but there's plenty of places to go break stuff out east.
oh yeah, West Virginia is amazing. You can go out there and um at least as yeah there's no shortage of trails to go explore in
Okay.
West Virginia. You just
That's awesome.
the challenge is you got to know where to look, and that's maybe a little harder. It's a little hard to find, but if you know where to go, and I think Onyx is with the new Onyx with everybody. There's a bunch of these. I forget what they call them. Onyx ambassadors, trail guys. They're going out and mapping trails and put them in the app, and so
Yeah.
it's getting easier. It's getting easier to find.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you I'm a huge fan of Onyx, being a person who writes for Trails Off Road, but
Sure.
in places, well, I I like Onyx, and don't get me wrong, there's a place for Onyx within the realm of apps that I have on my phone for any particular adventure. My issue with Onyx has always been the way they source their data. But for you guys out east, especially where Trails Off Road has really started to kind of make an inroads out that way, but up until recently, like there's no other way to find out about these roads and find out even like basic information, right? Even if it's out of date. So that's been the nice part about Onyx is it's given more people the opportunity to get out, maybe get a little more trouble than they expected, but they got out.
Yeah, until recently, you had to go buy a physical paper purple lizard map, and the purple lizard
There
maps
it
were like
is.
those are like the gold standard on finding cool routes out, at least this direction.
Yeah, no, we get the MVUMs out here and the BLM maps, and we used to have like
Actually,
there's the site that got me turned on to Trails Off Road was a site called Trail Damage. Like there it is. See,
yeah, I still
yeah,
got one on
paper.
my desk here. It's these are
Like
great.
don't get, and here I will tell you all right now. Who's ever listening to us at this to this nerd discussion that we're having at this point in the game about maps, it's great. I love having my iPad with my Gaia and all my information on it and everything else like that. But man, in my glove box at all times where I am going is a paper map of where I'm
Mhm.
going. And usually you can get those from where, if you're traveling to Colorado, I assure you that there is a local station where you can pick up a paper map on your way to the trail. You just got to look for it.
We stopped at 2 years ago. We stopped at a ranger station, and it was I forget the name of that little town, but it's right off of 70. Literally, like you can see the ranger station from the interstate.
Georgetown area.
It's like it's in the mountains, obviously, but
Yeah. Did you pass fail yet or do you know?
it was close to Vail. But anyways, it was so we
Okay.
what it was
Yeah.
right there by there's the red, white, and blue trail that's there. It's the exit you take to go to like to Holy Cross.
Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we
Clear Creek
stopped.
County. Yep.
Yeah, we stopped right there. They gave us maps. They showed us. We were trying to figure out where we're gonna go. They really recommended for us at that time. We had kind of an eclectic group with us that time, but half the guys wanted to go run Holy Cross. The other half was like, I just want to like see some cool sights.
Right, right, right. And Holy Cross is really that's a commitment, man.
Okay, so now I have to tell you the story.
That's by all means bring it in, brother. Come on.
So we were with our buddy Bryant, Jim with the White Gladiator, and then my other friend Nate, who runs a company called Car to Camp, and then he has a Subaru, like what is it, Outback, I think. And so we had this kind of Bryant has got this. The name of his truck is Ashley. This thing is it's a 2-door. No, it's a 4-door Jeep Wrangler. It's got like every bell and whistle done. This thing is a absolute beast. It's everything you could do
Nice.
from an overland perspective and off road perspective. So he's like I have to do Holy Cross. He's got to get the Jeep badge. He's got to, and then we've got like I said, Jim and his Gladiator, which at that time I think he's only on 35s. He's on like 37s now, and it's almost as much of a unit as Bryant's Ashley. But at that time it was a milder build. And then we had
Okay.
another guy with this red Tacoma, Brian B. And he's got this Tacoma's like $100,000+ build Tacoma with like every bumper, and it's a same thing. It's an amazing. I don't know if it's $100,000. I'm making up a number, but
It feels
um,
like it. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah. I
feels like
get
it.
you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's an amazing build. It's like everything you could ever imagine doing to Tacoma. So what ended up happening is Jim, me, the Subaru, we all wanted to. We were just gonna go find a really cool camp spot. We're gonna send the other guys our coordinates. They're gonna come meet us. And the other two guys are gonna go do Holy Cross. They're gonna film it. They're gonna have the time of their lives on Holy Cross. So we go our separate ways. We found this beautiful, like pretty well maintained, dirt road. We're just looking for a sweet camp spot. We found this amazing. I thought it was amazing. Some others in the group didn't like the bugs, but I thought it was this amazing campsite. It was just like you got this amazing view of the mountains, and there's like a patch of raspberries, like wild raspberries, right there. I literally like
That's fun.
pulled my chair out. I sat down in the middle of the patch of raspberries, and I was just like, just
Just
eating.
toss them in. Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
So we get there. I'm sitting around, like having, living my best life, eating raspberries. And we get the Starlink up, just like we're like, let's put Starlink up just in case, these guys run into some problem. Like literally like 5 minutes after we had Starlink up and running, we get the call. Hey Ben, we've already popped all of our tires. We're running on like glue treads, getting off the trail, and we need the spare tire off of Jim's Jeep to fix the other one.
Oh my God.
So we turn around, we get off the mountain, we go all the way back down. We meet him down in geez, I keep forgetting the name of that little town down there, but we meet him down in town, and then just to just to be funny, he and this is a story, and this is the reason I always carry glue treads with me now, because he went through like a whole pack of them, but he got like his sidewall. There's a gash that was probably 3 inches long in the sidewall of his tire, but he kept putting glue treads on it, and he got just enough air pressure in it to get it down the mountain, all the way down from Holy Cross into that little town
I
there.
think it's Buena Vista.
Yeah. Um, he got all the way down. We got to the gas station. But then just to be funny with him, we right as we pulled in, we had the Subi back up right in front of him. We pulled a tow strap out and took a picture where we attached the tow strap from the Jeep to the Subi.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
So
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah, here's the thing is glue tread has its issues, right? Like if you leave glue tread in your vehicle too long, it's going to dry out. But
yeah,
if you keep it up to date, like if you keep it fresh, man, it can really save you. It could have saved me a couple times with those Duratrax, man, that I just got rid of.
yeah. I mean, well, either you use them or you replace them. Hopefully
Well,
you're replacing them, because that's a cheaper.
that's the other thing too, right? Like it's I put that in a category of keeping things like a life straw in your vehicle, right? Like chances are you're never going to need it. But man, that one time you do, it could be a lifesaver. It can get you
Literally.
out of where you need you. Yeah. And in that case, literally, right? Like I had an instance where my Duratrack sidewalls got punctured, and yeah, those tires, look, I'm going to give those tires that are not discontinued. I found out today. I'm going to give them credit where credit is due, right? Like they ran for almost 9 miles on flat.
That's pretty
Like
good.
I ran for a minute. Like it ran for a minute, and got me to a place where somebody, because I had a broken jack and stuff like that. But glue tread would have saved that whole day, man. It would have saved me 8 hours worth of just struggle and effort. And man, it's one of those things. Just if you've got the ability to have it with you, and you run into a situation where you have a good chance of busting a tire or shredding a tire,
Mhm.
get it. Just get
Yeah.
it and take it with you. It's the simplest of insurance, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's it's just being prepared. If you're doing any kind of this stuff,
Yeah.
you need to understand what kind of roads you're planning to go on, and then prepare for it.
Yeah.
If you're not
Yeah.
doing anything too
Because if
crazy,
you're
you don't need to go crazy. But like, if you're planning to go crazy, you need to be prepared for crazy.
right, like you might not need glue tread as much on the East Coast as you do on the West Coast, because there's just a lot more dry stuff that you might run. It depends on where you wheel,
Yeah.
100% depends on where you wheel. But some of the places out here and the places where I've tended to break those kinds of things has typically been on those dry trails where there's things like, wood, dry wood and stuff like that that reach out and just jump at your tire. Because
Yeah,
it was never my fault. I never backed into it. Yeah.
we lost a tire doing one of the last times we did the 24 hours of Appalachia race rally. We lost a
Nice.
tire going up this mud bank at, it was probably 1 a.m, and we're going up this mud bank, and one thing led to another, and we ended up sliding into this huge like root ball. And luckily, luckily we had a spare tire, and we had an off-road jack. We changed it out pretty quick. I'm kind of proud of myself for how fast we changed that, but
Nice.
um,
Hey,
like,
little victories.
a little victory. But yeah, it was the root ball. There's just one of the twigs of the root ball. We thought we cut the sidewall, because we got out of the truck and we are getting ready to, because we kind of slid it kind of a weird way. We were gonna winch up and kind of get back on trail, but then we get out and I hear like this hissing. Like, I was convinced, actually, until the next morning, we thought we had a gash in the sidewall. What it ended up being was this root had gotten wedged between the bead and the wheel, and it just lost all its air that way. But glue tread's not going
Yeah,
to help
I
you.
had no, it's not. But at least you probably didn't really damage the tire, right? Once you put air back in, it was good to go. Yeah.
Yeah, we fixed that one pretty easy. Unfortunately, that root ball did a little bit of damage to a door, so it was
You
that
take
was
some, you
harder,
lose some. I mean, yeah, that was harder to fix.
a little harder to fix.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I feel like I've taken up enough of your time, man. We should probably get wrapped up here and finish up this piece here. So let me ask you a couple quick questions and get you out of here. What have you had any ridiculous prototypes? Like, have you put anything together where you're like, this is just a stupid idea, but I want to do it, or you put the idea together and you're just like, no, this was a stupid idea, and you threw it in the recycle bin.
Uh, there was one. They've all had. I guess all of the ridiculous prototypes have had they've had their place. I guess.
Okay.
So I don't consider any of them like a failure, but
Okay.
there's definitely a few that have not, not turned into products.
Where you one iteration, you're like, this design isn't going to work.
Yeah, it was an
Okay, that's
idea.
fair.
It was worth a try. We're not going to do it.
All right, that's
So
fair.
we made a bar in bracket. We had a customer, and we have one customer running it, and it fixed the need that he had. But we were kind of playing around with it and considering turning it into a product because we figured others may have a similar use for it. We got that one together, and that was it. That was, I was like, this is the only one this is the only one that's ever being made.
That's fair. That's fair. And has anybody used one of your products in a way that you hadn't like expected? Like you heard back from them like, yeah, I mounted this to my boat.
We have all the time, all the time.
Okay.
We have our 12-inch Molly panels. I've heard people, and I don't know where they're doing this, but they're putting them inside a Forerunner as an internal Molly panel somewhere. I've yet
What?
to figure out. I mean, I'd love to see if whoever has done it is listening. I would love to see a picture because I know a couple people have done it. So that's one. I know we've had a couple racks go on, like we've actually had some really cool builds on like old H1 Hummers. We did a custom rack for an H1 Hummer that was super sweet. We did I think the probably wildest like custom, semi-custom now, I think we actually put it on our website. We did this 80-inch long panel to go on the side of a 6.5-foot 6'8" bed. We've made 3 sets of them now, and they're just huge Molly panels. Biggest Molly panel, like it's taller than me. You know,
That's a bit much. Yeah.
yeah, we have a ton of. I mean, I love making things, so
Yeah, why not, man? That's awesome. If you've got a customer for it and they're willing to put the money in and time, then why not, dude? At the very least, it gives you an opportunity to try something new.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think maybe we're building this trailer rack prototype right now. We'll see where it goes, but we'll see if this is one that goes in
Okay.
that recycle bin or if it goes in the production bin.
I mean, hey, look, I'm about to head out with a trailer for the first time, and I'll let you know if I could have used a rack that would have been more modular and helpful than the dual kind of ski racks that I see on top of the one I'm using. So yeah, man,
Yeah, I think that one's got a pretty solid chance of being a real product, but you don't know till you know.
okay. You don't know, right? Exactly, right. And you don't necessarily know by the time you get done designing if the market's still going to bear it and still wants it. So, to that end, so do you think? And this is, I'm going to ask it's a semi controversial question, right? Because you're a small business, right? And we kind of touched on this before. How do you feel the last year or two has been the creator economy that has kind of come up, especially with gear and, people send people free stuff and you get the stories about whether or not you get Instagram stories from people and you can't tell necessarily whether or not they're real or not. Do you think that that's going to kind of continue in the overland space, or do you think that that's going to kind of come to an end? Do you think people have kind of run their gamut on what, and they believe who they believe now and they trust who they trust?
I mean, are you asking kind of in terms of like ambassador, uh, influencer kind of relationships?
Yeah, like and just as if it, and not necessarily if you think it's going to still be a thing, but is it overblown? Has it been overblown to date, or is it something worthwhile for companies? Is it something that is just a waste of time and money for folks? Because I mean, there are companies like, Jeep who would say Jeep is it's obviously an outsized example, but they're the kind of company who's going to just spend the big dollars on the Harrison Ford ads that run during the Super Bowl. But smaller companies are like, I'd much rather advertise direct to the people that want me and want my stuff. And that's where the creator economy kind of came into play here. But the way things have kind of been playing for the last year or so, there's been a little bit of backlash on that. And there's been a little bit of, and not just from like people, but from companies too. Like they don't want to spend that kind of money. Do you think that that's going to continue, or do you think people might fall back into, I trust the Joe Rogan to tell me what rack to run as opposed to, the Fox News or whatever it is?
So I'll answer. I don't know if the answer is going to be a good answer or not, but
It's your answer. It's not,
it's
it
my
doesn't have to be good or bad. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah. I guess maybe I'm not sure I'll answer the question correct. In a I'm not sure it's answering the right question, but
It's okay.
I think that in terms of especially small businesses and even in big businesses, the power of like storytelling is never going to go away. Um,
Okay.
so and the reason I say that is like big influencers, with a million followers or whatever, they've got their space and their audience and whatever. But sometimes the better story is new influencer that's growing. And I've talked with a lot of other companies that I'm friends with, and we've had this discussion. We've had a small business. I get probably 5 or 6 people a week who are all, hey, I can take pictures. Can I have a free rack?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a disservice to the people who are actually like truly building channels. But it's hard for companies to kind of weed out who's who are the people who are going to deliver you know a good result, and who are the people who are just going
Right.
to like take a free rack and then you'll never hear
Yeah.
from
And
them.
then, never
um,
provide anything for you in return. Yeah.
so I think that especially small businesses, and like businesses our size, we're a tiny company in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
If we're going to sponsor somebody with a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 build, like, it's a big commitment for us. It's a lot
Yeah.
of our, it's one of our products that we could have sold, and it's time. When we do that, we have to build a lot of trust in the person to kind of get there.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going away. I think the difference, I think what's probably going to happen is, as companies and creators, both sides morph. I think just the market's going to push both sides to morph to work together.
Yeah, I think you'll see more things like contracts, right? Like actual, hey, this is what I'm getting for this, and you're going to produce X amount of videos and all that kind of jazz. Because a lot of times, I think to date, it's just been, hey, we'll send you a free rack, or we'll send you some free seat covers or something, and throw us a video, and nobody ever. There's no follow up, right? There's no consequences for not doing that piece. So you end up with folks who just get screwed, and it's the companies, right? Especially those small businesses that are U.S. companies. Those you guys get screwed.
Oh yeah, and every small business you talk to, they've got a story where they sent some product to
Yeah.
somebody and it was gone. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer that people are out there that are taking advantage of we're small companies, but we're people too. They're taking
Yeah.
taking advantage of people.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we've kind of implemented is we've implemented a contract basis for any that, and we have a very limited number of influencer ambassador spots. I think we budget like maybe one a quarter,
That's
and
okay.
we're
That's
always
I think
looking,
that's good for a company your size. Exactly. That's perfect.
and
Yeah. You don't gotta get crazy with it.
we're always looking to meet people though, and we've started to try to come up with other creative options for other folks that you know where the budget may not allow us to give away a free rack, but we're trying to figure out creative ways to work with more people.
We'll talk off air. I happen to know a couple of other companies that do some creative things that might
Sure.
work for you. We'll talk off when we're done. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. All right. We've kind of touched on this, so I won't go down the line of what you might have coming down the pipeline. It sounds like you've got some cool prototypes in the Git. But honestly, if you have a Gladiator or Tacoma, just check out the website. gettruck.com, because it's, you guys basically have all the stuff. It's no matter what kind of thing that you're looking to carry on your truck rack, whether or not it's a low profile or a higher profile to get your stuff. You guys have managed to come up with a really nice suite of options for
Yeah, thank you.
people without getting too deep into the woods, right? Like there's this thing that happens in the corporate world called scope creep, where you end up doing too much
Yeah.
as opposed to just what you really focused on. And it sounds to me like you guys are just trying to focus on what your core business is, and then as it makes sense, you're like, okay, well, we'll add this piece here, and then we'll add this kind of thing here, and then so yeah, like I'm not pushing you about the two-door stuff, but yeah, if you come to me
Yeah.
with it, I'll 100% check it out. It's good stuff, man. Okay,
Thank you. Yeah,
no, go ahead.
I just saying we're always looking for when a new need arises for a new product, and if it looks like there's a market, then we'll make it. So that's what we
There
tell
you
most
go.
of our customers is like, hey, if there's something you want us to build, tell us. It may not be next on the build list, but we'll put it on the build list. And if enough people ask for it, that it starts rising to the top of the build list. So
See, there you go. And that's the way to do it though, right? Like if you're gonna come to the market with new products, especially in the overland space where there's so much competition these days,
mhm.
bring what people are asking for. Bring that those items that are, hey, I've been trying to do this with my vehicle for X number of years and I just haven't been able to do it. And you're like, wow, that's a big market of people. Plug into it, do it, because that makes you successful and then gives us the opportunity for folks like us with the two doors to maybe get a rack, get a roof rack that
Yeah.
works for
So
us, right?
our first foray into products that are not necessarily bed rack components, although they could be.
Mm-hmm.
We launched, it was mid-March, late March, we launched this shower awning swing out part. Um
Okay. Yeah.
because so it's just this little arm that like it opens up and it moves your shower awning away from the fender. So
Simple,
you're
right?
not fighting your tire while you're trying to take a shower. Um
Yeah.
and that's one that we've actually had quite a few people with the 4-door and 2-door Jeeps starting to get. They've been buying that and putting on their roof racks. And so yeah, that was one of those that we had a couple, I guess maybe not end customers, but we had a couple other companies really push us to make it because they saw the need and they needed somebody who knew that side of manufacturing to kind of get it done. So we I literally designed we were designing the I was designing the parts on the way from Florida out to California. I was stopping at McDonald's every morning, drinking a coffee and designing parts.
Hey, you know what? That's awesome though. Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm going to put designed in McDonald's on a label, but
No, but it's part of your story, man. Someday when they tell the story of Trucked as a big deal, I hope they play this part of the episode from this podcast, and they're like, "Yeah, then they told the story about making McDonald's designs and stuff." So that's pretty awesome. All right, man.
it was
All right,
it
well,
was kind of fun.
no, go ahead. Yeah, it's a dude. That's again, it's one of those things where it's like it's those kind of stories that let the people who are buying your product connect with you, right? Like we've all done that. And if you've ever started a business or been part of a startup of any kind, and you found yourself, at a McDonald's at 2 o'clock in the morning doing work because you just, hey, there's free Wi-Fi here.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there. If you've been in the trenches of any kind, it's the kind of thing that really sticks out to people, and it makes your product mean more to folks, right? Like it's something that
Mhm.
you worked on. You were passionate enough to work on it every time you stop between Florida and California. That's a big deal to a lot of people, and I don't think
Yeah.
I think that's underreported and not talked about enough.
A lot of people think, oh, you start a small business to, become some rich guy. And maybe some people do, but
Very
most
few.
small business owners most people, yeah, most small business owners start their business because they're passionate about the products. So
Exactly. And the ones that stick around are the most passionate. So here's to you sticking around, man. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you.
All right. All right. Well, so if you want to learn more about Trucked, then it is TRUKD, and that is gettrucked.com. I will link to that in the show notes. It's TRUKD.com. And like you guys have, like I said, you guys have a ton of stuff for the Tacoma and the Gladiator. There's lots of options out there. And as you've heard today, there are plenty of options, maybe even to kind of side load, if you will, for those of us who are Android people, to side load one of these modular racks into your vehicle to do whatever you want to do with it. All right, anything else we should know about you or Truck before we get out of here, my friend?
No, I think we've covered it all. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been fun.
I love having you. I love having small businesses. I love having folks from, especially from the East Coast on here. So thank you so much, man, for coming on the show. If you want to learn more about if you want to learn more about TRUKD, go to gettrucked.com. We'll link to that in the show notes. And thank you very much for riding along with us this week. And thank you for letting us be a part of your off-road adventures. Safe travels off and on road. And as always, stay the trail. We'll see you next time at the trailhead. Have a good night, everybody.
This is where trails start and our stories unfold.